time is supposed to be universal. A second is a second, an hour is an hour, right? But what if I told you that around the world, people have made some of the strangest, most mind-bending laws about how we keep and measure time? From entire countries skipping days on the calendar, to nations inventing their own years, two clocks that nobody dares to change. Humans really like to play with time. Today, we're diving into 40 of the craziest, funniest, and most unbelievable laws about time, and calendars that will leave you wondering what even is time, really. Resphere, because the drama is only getting bigger. 1. Switzerland. Church bell rules. Imagine suing your neighbor because a bell rang too loud. Switzerland loves precision, but even here, ringing bells can cause chaos. Local laws actually restrict how loud and how often church bells can ring, especially at night. Why? Because sleep is sacred, even in the land of watches. People once sued because the midnight bells disturbed their rest. Now, bells must keep the peace while still marking holy hours. Imagine living in the country famous for clocks, but your biggest worry isn't being late, it's being woken up by an over-enthusiastic bell tower at 3 a.m. in Switzerland. Silence at night is just as important as punctuality. 2. Germany. Quiet hour laws in Germany. Even time itself has a bedtime. In Germany, time isn't just measured, it's respected. The country has something called Ruhezeit, quiet hours. During these times, usually at night, or on Sundays, you legally cannot mow your lawn, hammer nails, or even run a noisy washing machine. The idea is that everyone deserves peace and rest. Break this law, and your angry neighbor won't just glare at you, they can actually call the authorities. Germans take time for silence seriously. In fact, people joke that in Germany, even time itself has a curfew. Who knew being noisy at the wrong hour could make you a criminal? 3. France atomic clock synchronization in France. Your shop clock must obey the government. In France, it's illegal for public clocks to just do their own thing. Shops, train stations, and even some businesses must synchronize with the official French atomic clock system. Why? Because if you miss your train in Paris, you can't blame a slow wristwatch. France ensures every tick is officially approved. It sounds futuristic, but it also means Big Brother is literally keeping time. Imagine being fined because your shop's wall clock is 5 minutes slow. In France, time isn't just money, it's law. Precision is a national value, and even seconds are a matter of legal importance. For Japan, train apology certificates in Japan. Being late is so serious you get a legal excuse slip. Japanese trains are world famous for punctuality. But did you know they issue apology certificates if a train is late? It's a real law. If your train is delayed more than a few minutes, the railway company gives you an official slip to show your boss or teacher. That way, nobody thinks you're lying. In Japan, a 5-minute delay is a national scandal. Once, a train company apologized publicly because they departed 20 seconds early. This law shows how deeply time is respected. In Japan, being late isn't. Just inconvenience is legally acknowledged as a breach of public trust. 5. Russia, the daylight saving flip-flop. What happens when a country permanently locks its clocks the wrong way? In 2011, Russia made a bold move. They permanently switched to summertime, meaning longer evenings year-round. People were excited at first, until winter came. Kids had to walk to school in pitch-black mornings, and the sun barely showed. Itself, the law backfired so badly that in 2014, they reversed it and went permanent wintertime instead. It was one of the fastest legal U-turns in timekeeping history. Russians still joke about those years of calendar chaos. When the government literally decided to play with the clock like a toy, and everyone had to suffer through endless dark mornings. 6. Arizona, USA. The state that hates DST in Arizona, daylight saving time is literally against the law. In the United States, almost every state observes daylight saving time, except Arizona. In 1968, Arizona opted out, making it illegal to spring forward or fall back. Why? Because in Arizona's scorching desert heat, nobody wanted extra daylight in the evenings. Businesses and schools loved it, but travelers, they're often confused. Drive from California into Arizona, and suddenly your phone jumps back an hour. The strangest part, is that one tiny section of Arizona, the Navajo Nation, does follow DST. So inside Arizona, you can literally change time zones just by crossing a street. Confusing much? 7. Indiana, USA, county by county, chaos. Imagine. Crossing a county line at time literally changes. For decades, Indiana was a timekeeping nightmare. Some counties observed daylight saving time, others didn't. Some followed Central Time, others Eastern. Imagine driving 30 minutes for groceries and suddenly losing or gaining an hour, depending on which county you entered. Businesses hated it. Outsiders hated it. Even locals got lost in the chaos. Finally, in 2006, the state forced all counties to follow the same system. But for years, Indiana proved that nothing messes with your head quite like a government that can't agree what time it is, Everin, when you're all living in the same state. 8. Argentina DST. On shuffle in Argentina, the clock changes depending on politics. Argentina is infamous for changing its daylight saving rules at random. One year, the government declares DST. The next, they cancel it. Then they bring it back, but only in certain provinces. Farmers hated the sudden shifts. Citizens were confused, and TV schedules became impossible to follow. At one point, people didn't even know what time New Year's Eve was supposed to start. The chaos grew so bad that most provinces just stopped caring and ignored the rules. Today, Argentina remains a country where timekeeping laws are as unpredictable as its politics. Time here is literally political drama. 9. Nepal, the 45-minute offset. Nepal decided, why be half an hour ahead when you can be 45 minutes? Nepal decided that being unique meant more than just having Mount Everest. Instead of following a normal time zone like UTC 5:30 like India, they chose UTC plus 5:45. Why? Because they wanted their time to be different from India's, even by just 15 minutes. It's the only country in the world with a 45-minute offset. This law means Nepal stands out on every international schedule. But it also drives travelers insane when their phones show bizarre local times. Nepal basically said, we'll tell the world we're special, down to the minute, and honestly, that's kind of genius. 10. Venezuela, the 30-minute shift. Most countries change clocks by an hour. Venezuela went rogue with 30 minutes. In 2007, Venezuela's president, Hugo Chavez, decided to change the clocks by exactly 30 minutes. Not an hour just. 30 minutes. His reasoning? He wanted kids to have more daylight when walking to school. But critics called it a power move, a way for Venezuela to stand apart. The strangest part is that Venezuela now sits in a completely unique time zone, shared by almost nobody else. Travelers and airlines constantly get confused, and international calls turn into math problems. It's a reminder that when leaders mess with time, the whole country ends up living in a scheduling nightmare. 11. North Korea, the Juki calendar in North Korea. It's not 2025, it's year 113. Forget 2025. In North Korea, it's actually Juki year 113. Why? Because they don't use the Gregorian calendar. Instead, they measure time from 1912, the birth year of Kim Il-sung, their eternal president. The Juki calendar is mandatory on all official documents. Foreign visitors are baffled when they see newspapers dated 113, but that's the law. North Korea even tried changing its time zone once, just to be different from South Korea. Time there isn't just measured, it's propaganda. For North Koreans, every tick of the clock reinforces the cult of leadership. Talk about bending time to politics. 12. Ethiopia, to 13 months of sunshine in Ethiopia. The year isn't 12 months long, it's 13. In Ethiopia, the year doesn't have 12 months, it has 13. Their calendar includes 12 30-day months and one small month of 5 or 6 days, depending on the leap year. On top of that, they're about 7 to 8 years behind the Gregorian calendar. So when it's 2025 for most of the world, it's only 2017 in Ethiopia. They call it 13 months of sunshine, and it's actually the law of the land. Travelers constantly get confused, but locals love it. For Ethiopians, being unique with time is a point of national pride. Their year is truly different, 13. France, the 10-day week France, once tried to erase Sunday and make weeks 10 days. long. During the French Revolution, leaders tried to wipe out the old monarchian that included the calendar. They created a new French Republican calendar with 10-day weeks, 3 weeks per month, and 12 months in a year. Sundays were banned, replaced with one rest day every 10 days. The law lasted for about 12 years before people rebelled. Farmers hated it, the church hated it, and normal people were exhausted working 9 days straight. Eventually, Napoleon scrapped the system. But for over a decade, France legally lived in a completely different rhythm of time, proving that revolution spares nothing. 14. Soviet Union. The endless workweek in the USSR, weekends were literally illegal. In the 1920s, the Soviet Union introduced a bizarre calendar law: no weekends. Instead, workers had 5-day weeks with rotating rest days. Factories never stopped running, and people often had different rest days than their families. Later, they tried 6-day weeks with only one rest day per cycle. Families couldn't spend time together, churches were disrupted, and morale plummeted. By the 1940s, the USSR gave up and returned to a normal 7-day week. But for a time, millions of people lived in a legally enforced, never-ending work cycle, all in the name of industrial efficiency. 15. Thailand Buddhist calendar. In Thailand, the law says you're living 543 years in the future. Thailand legally follows the Buddhist calendar, which is 543 years ahead of the Gregorian calendar. That means while the world calls it 2025, in Thailand, it's officially 2568. Government documents, school books, even road signs use Buddhist years. For travelers, it's like time traveling to the future. This calendar law is deeply cultural and spiritual, tying modern Thailand to its Buddhist roots. Of course, businesses working internationally often add Gregorian years in brackets, just to avoid chaos. But within Thailand, the Buddhist calendar reigns supreme. Time here isn't just about the sun, it's about faith, history, and identity. 16. Israel Sabbath laws. Every Friday night in Israel, the country literally shuts down. In Israel, time literally stops every Friday evening. The Sabbath, or Shabbat, is protected by law. Public transport shuts down, many businesses close, and even government services pause until Saturday night. The law reflects religious tradition, but for visitors, it feels like the entire country just takes a collective time out. Some people love the peace, others complained about the inconvenience. Either way, Israel shows how law can freeze time itself, at least once a week. Here, the rhythm of days isn't just about clocks, it's about sacred time, and the law ensures everyone respects that pause in life. 17. Saudi Arabia. Prayer time closures. In Saudi Arabia, 5 times a day life legally pauses. Until recently, Saudi Arabia enforced one of the strictest time laws in the world during daily prayer times. Shops and businesses had to close. It didn't matter if you were in the middle of shopping or dining when stopped. Religious police even patrolled to ensure compliance. In recent years, the law has been relaxed, but many businesses still voluntarily follow it. Imagine living where 5 times a day, time literally halts for everyone. It's a powerful example of how laws don't just measure time, they shape the flow of everyday life according to faith. 18. Nepal. Auspicious time laws. In Nepal, even the stars can delay government meetings. In Nepal, certain religious and cultural ceremonies must happen at auspicious times, determined by astrologers. Laws and regulations sometimes require government events, weddings, or temple ceremonies to be scheduled according to these times. It means you might wait hours or days for the right moment to sign a document or hold a festival. This isn't just tradition. In some cases, it's legally mandated. Imagine a prime minister's swearing-in ceremony delayed because the stars weren't aligned. Nepal shows how, for some cultures, time isn't just scientific, it's cosmic, and the law bows to the universe's schedule. 19. India Temple Festival Laws. Kerala. In Kerala, courts decide when festivals can begin based on astrology. In the Indian state of Kerala, temple festivals follow a strict calendar of traditions, and many are regulated by official temple boards with legal authority. Dates are often decided by astrological charts rather than modern calendars. Some festivals can't begin until priests declare the correct time. Courts in India have even intervened to resolve disputes about festival timing. This means that centuries-old traditions still hold legal weight in modern India. Imagine lawyers arguing not about money or crime, but about whether the stars said a festival could start. In Kerala, timekeeping is sacred and the law protects it. 20. Greece Orthodox Easter laws in Greece. Easter doesn't follow the world's calendar, has its own law. In Greece, the celebration of Easter is legally tied to the Eastern Orthodox Church's calendar, which often differs from Western Christianity's Easter. Sometimes the two dates match. Other times they're weeks apart. This creates confusion for tourists, but for Greeks, the law ensures their holiday traditions remain intact. Businesses, schools, and even national schedules are affected by this. Calendar difference. It's more than just a date, it's cultural identity. In Greece, Easter isn't negotiable. The law protects a calendar that connects the nation's past, faith, and community life, even if it means celebrating on a completely different timeline. 21. United Kingdom. The 11 missing days. Imagine going to bed on September 2nd and waking up on September 14th. In 1752, Britain finally switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian one. But this required skipping 11 entire days. People went to sleep on September 2nd and woke up on September 14th. Imagine losing almost 2 weeks of your life overnight. Many citizens rioted, demanding give us back our 11 days, as if the government had stolen time. The truth, the old calendar was simply out of sync with the solar year. But legally erasing 11 days sparked chaos, confusion, and conspiracy theories. Britain learned the hard way that time may be universal, but calendars are man-made. 22. Sweden, the accidental 30th of February. Only one country ever had February 30th, and it was a legal mistake. Only one country ever officially had a February 30th, Sweden, in 1712. Gregorian calendar, they made mistakes, backtracked, and ended up with one extra day in February. The law meant Swedes celebrated February 30th once in history. Farmers didn't know when to plant, priests didn't know when to hold festivals, and everyone was confused. Eventually, Sweden gave up and officially switched to the Gregorian system years later. But that one strange month still stands as the only time February legally had 30 days. Sweden literally broke time by accident. 23. Italy Mussolini's fascist calendar. Mussolini didn't just want power, he wanted his own calendar. Benito Mussolini wasn't satisfied with ruling Italy, he wanted to control time itself. In 1926, he introduced the fascists calendar, counting years from 1922, when his regime came to power. Official documents carried both the Gregorian year and the fascist year. For example, 1935 was also year 13 of fascism. Mussolini wanted Italians to live in a new timeline that glorified his rule. The law stayed until his downfall in 1943. Imagine applying for a loan or marriage, licensed and needing to calculate which fascist year you were in. Mussolini's failed experiment proved dictators love bending even the calendar. 24. Turkey. Abandoning the Islamic calendar, one law in Turkey erased centuries of timekeeping tradition overnight. In Ejderloo, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk reformed Turkey's entire legal system, and that included time. He abolished the Islamic lunar calendar and legally imposed the Gregorian one, aligning Turkey with Europe. Overnight, centuries of tradition were replaced with Western timekeeping. For many citizens, this was disorienting, like being ripped out of one history and shoved into another. But Atatürk believed modern Turkey couldn't progress if it stayed out of sync with the rest of the world. Today, official life runs on Gregorian time, but religious occasions still follow the Islamic calendar, a compromise between law, faith, and modernization. 25. Japan Imperial Era names in Japan. The year isn't just 2025, it's also Reiwa 7 in Japan. Years are officially counted in two ways, Gregorian and Imperial. Each emperor's reign creates a new era with its own name, and government documents must use it. For example, 2025 is Reiwa 7, the 7th year of Emperor Naruhito's reign. This dual calendar law means Japanese people constantly convert between systems. It's confusing for outsiders, but deeply cultural for Japan. The law ties time to leadership, reminding citizens of the emperor's symbolic role. Whether it's Heisei Showa or Reiwa, every signature on official papers carries not just a date, but a reminder of who reigns. 26 Samoa, the day that disappeared in Samoa, December 30th, 2011. Never happened. In 2011, Samoa literally skipped a day. The country moved west of the international dateline to align its calendar with Australia and New Zealand. Citizens went to bed on December 29th and woke up on December 31st. December 30th never existed. Imagine birthdays, anniversaries, or weddings planned, that day all legally erased. Samoa made history by time-traveling into the future. Not backward. Businesses benefited from being in sync with trading partners, but locals joke that their lives are one day shorter. This law shows that entire nations can bend calendars to suit economics, even if days vanish forever. 27 Kiribati, moving the international dateline. Kiribati literally dragged the international dateline across the map. Kiribati, a Pacific island nation, faced a strange problem. Its territory spanned both sides of the international dateline, meaning half the country lived a day ahead of the other half. In 1995, the government solved it by shifting the dateline eastward. Legally, the whole country was now in the same day. It made life easier, but it also meant Kiribati became the first nation to welcome the new millennium in 2000. The law gave them global attention and tourist bragging rights. Kiribati didn't just change its clocks, it literally moved the future closer to home. 28. China, one time zone for all in China. Over 1 billion people legally share the same clock. China is massive, stretching across 5 natural time zones. Yet by law, the entire country follows Beijing time. This means in western regions like Xinjiang, the sun may rise at 10 a.m. and set close to midnight. Locals unofficially use Xinjiang time for daily life, but legally, only Beijing time is recognized. The policy symbolizes unity under the central government, but it creates surreal daily routines. Imagine going to school at 8 a.m. when it's pitch black outside. In China, the law doesn't just tell time, it enforces political authority. One clock rules over 1 billion people. 29. Spain, living in the wrong time zone. Why do Spaniards eat dinner at midnight? Blame a dictator's clock law. Spain is geographically aligned with Britain, but by law, it follows Central European time. Why? In 1940, dictator Francisco Franco shifted the clocks to match Nazi Germany, and Spain never switched back. This means Spaniards legally live an hour ahead of where the sun actually is. That's why dinner is at 10 p.m. and primetime TV starts at midnight. Many Spaniards argue for a return to the correct time zone, but the law still locks them into a schedule set by politics, not nature. Spain proves that one leader's decision can warp a nation's daily life for decades. 30. Portugal, the DST disaster of Portugal, tried permanent daylight saving and it was a nightmare. In the 1990s, Portugal tried to adopt Central European time with permanent daylight saving. At first, people loved the extra daylight in the evenings. But soon, kids were going to school in darkness, accidents increased, and citizens were miserable. Within a few years, Portugal reversed the law, returning to its old time zone. The failed experiment became a national joke about messing with nature's clock. Portugal's brief flirtation with fake time showed that laws can push the sun on paper, but not in reality. Even governments can't outsmart sunrise, no matter how many rules they pass. 31. France, the right to disconnect. In France, it's illegal for your boss to email you at night. In 2017, France passed a groundbreaking law. Employees have the right to disconnect after work hours. That means bosses can't legally force workers to answer emails or phone calls at night. It was designed to protect work-life balance in a world obsessed with 24/7 communication. Some call it the email curfew. The law recognizes that while technology makes us reachable anytime, people deserve time that belongs only to themselves. Of course, some companies grumble, but workers love it. In France, the government doesn't just regulate clocks, it regulates when your boss is allowed to bother you. 32. South Korea capping work hours. South Korea once allowed 68-hour work weeks until the law changed. In 2018, South Korea passed a law reducing the maximum legal work week from 68 hours to 52. Why? Because the country's work Culture was notorious for long, exhausting schedules. The new law forces companies to give workers back their time. Businesses complained about reduced productivity, but citizens gained more family and rest hours. It was a cultural shift, proving that time laws can protect health and happiness. Of course, enforcement is still tricky, but South Korea's law showed the world that even modern societies need to put legal limits on how much time work can steal. 33. UAE. Changing the weekend. The UAE once changed its weekend by government decree. For years, the United Arab Emirates had its weekend on Friday and Saturday, matching Islamic tradition. But in 2022, the government shifted the official weekend to Saturday and Sunday, aligning with global business. It was a radical move, making the UAE the first Gulf country to adopt a Western-style week. Schools, offices, and even prayer times had to adjust. Some praised the move for boosting trade, while others mourned the loss of tradition. The law proved that even weekends are negotiable. In the UAE, leaders can literally rewrite the calendar to keep up with globalization. 34. Bhutan, a time zone of their own. Bhutan set its clocks half an hour ahead just to stand apart from India. Bhutan, the small Himalayan kingdom, wanted to assert independence from India. So instead of following India's UTC plus 5:30, Bhutan legally set its clocks 30 minutes ahead at UTC 6. It was a political statement disguised as a time law. Today, this unique offset adds to Bhutan's identity. For tourists, it's a minor headache, but for locals, it's a proud difference. Bhutan's government literally declared, "We'll live in our own time." It's a reminder that even small nations can use laws of time as a symbol of sovereignty, ensuring nobody mistakes them for just another Indian province. It's 35. Iceland, the daylight debate in Iceland. Kids go to school at 10 a.m. in pitch darkness. Iceland legally follows Greenwich Mean Time, but geographically, it's much closer to UTC 1. This means the sun rises ridiculously late in winter and sets very late in summer. Locals have debated shifting the clocks for years, but the government insists on staying synced with Europe. The result? Icelanders live in one of the strangest time zones in the world, where kids often walk to school in darkness well past 10 a.m. That Iceland doesn't have mornings at all. Here, the law's stubbornness means people must bend their lives around a clock that doesn't match the sky. 36. Antarctica. Choose your own time zone. Antarctica is the only place where you can legally choose your time zone. Antarctica has no official time zone. Instead, each research station sets its clocks however they want. Some use the time zone of their home country, others use Chilean time, and some even switch depending on supply flights. Legally, there's no unified law governing time here. You could walk from one station to another and suddenly travel hours into the past or future. It's the only place on Earth where time is totally negotiable. Antarctica proves that without laws, time becomes chaos. Down there, scientists joke they live in whatever time, because nobody can agree what the clock says. 37. NASA, living on Mars time. NASA scientists sometimes live on Mars time even while on Earth. When NASA runs Mars missions, scientists on Earth sometimes live by Mars time. A Martian day, or sol, is about 24 hours and 39 minutes. NASA teams legally adjust their work schedules to match Mars, even if it means waking up at 3 a.m. Earth time. Families struggle, daily life gets weird, but it's part of the job. Official mission rules demand strict adherence. It's the only situation where humans legally shift away from Earth's clock to live by another planet's. For those scientists, time isn't universal, it's planetary, and for a while, their lives run on Martian rhythm. 38. Leap year birthdays, age. Laws. If you're born on February 29th, the law decides when you age. Leap year babyzos born on February 29th have some strange legal quirks. In most countries, if you're born on leap day, your birthday is celebrated on February 28th or March 1st in non-leap years. But in some places, the law dictates which date counts. This affects things like when you legally turn 18 or when a contract begins or ends. Imagine being told by law that your birthday isn't real 3 out of 4 years. For leap year kids, time itself is unfair. They're living proof that calendars can't perfectly measure life and, sometimes, laws have to improvise. 39 new years first and last. Some countries celebrate New Year's twice in one night. The international dateline creates bizarre New Year laws. In places like Tonga and Samoa, the New Year legally begins earlier than anywhere else, while in Hawaii, it's among the last to arrive. This creates a global race for celebration. Tourists even fly across the date line to celebrate New Year's twice in one night. Governments promote it as a tourist attraction, legally branding themselves the first sunrise of the year. Time zones here aren't just practical, they're marketing tools. For some nations, owning the future for even a few hours is a point of pride. 40. Space law. Astronaut time. Astronauts orbit Earth 16 times a day, but they live on one clock. In space, what time is it? Astronauts orbit Earth 16 times a day, so sunrise and sunset happen constantly. To avoid madness, international space law declares that astronauts follow Coordinated Universal Time (UTC) or Greenwich time. This keeps everyone on the same schedule for experiments, meals, and sleep. Without this law, astronauts would face time chaos. Imagine trying to eat breakfast 16 times a day. Space-time shows that even beyond Earth, humans need rules to anchor reality. Out there, laws don't just govern countries, they govern the universe, reminding us that order is necessary for survival.